Hello and welcome. Yig here. Today we're looking at Too Many Cooks again, and we're going to be playing that second level. This is less of a let's play, and I'm just going to be talking over some cooking stories. Since I used to be a cook, this game is very nice for me. I enjoy it. So we will be using the other character and going to the other place. Now, I'm going to try to use this part right here. Every 20th shot, shoot a circle of fireballs. I am going to be shooting for the fastest fire rate I can find. We got plus 5 crit chance and plus 50 damage. We do have to probably build a hit point or two. Let's get over here to the teppanyaki restaurant and we will be good to go. All right. I'm on keyboard and mouse. Last time we were, last time we were playing this game, I was talking about how, like, sometimes this would be very nice because if you've had a bad day at the kitchen, being able to throw rice balls at your coworkers is kind of nice. Now, one of the interesting things is, no matter how, like, good of a chef you are, no matter how, everybody always has a bad day. So that was actually what I wanted to talk about today, was if you're in a kitchen, sometimes you're going to have a bad day. Alright, so we are looking for reload rate, because we definitely need the most reloads possible, so that we can go super fast, because we want to be shooting and get that effect as much as possible. So we're going to go with, how fast can I shoot? How can we make that work? So, sometimes you're going to have a bad day. It's like, I worked in automotive too, and it's one of those weird things that we tell people and they don't believe us. It's like, hey, you're probably going to you're going to crash a car. And people are like, no, I'm not going to crash a car. No, you're going to crash a car. Oh yeah, we don't have the extra reroll for every level that we get from the other things, so we have to be a lot more careful with our rerolls than we would if you were using the other weapon. Yeah, see, the idea I'm going for is we're just going to stack that. So people would believe you. You'd say, hey, yeah, you're going to crash a car. Don't worry. It happens to everybody. And we would just literally say this to people, and they'd be like, I'm not going to crash a car. I'm not going to crash a car. And you'd say it to people every time because they're going to crash a car. Everybody crashes a car at some point or another. If you work in the automotive industry long enough, unless you are absolutely the most lucky human being in the world, you're going to crash a car. It's just going to happen. All right. Well, yeah, let's go with the shield. And so when you think like, oh, I'm in the kitchen, I'm not going to, I'm a good chef. I went to school. I did all my stuff. I was graduated high in my class. I'm not going to make a bunch of mistakes. Yeah, you are. Like, as an example, I worked at, this is back in like, I want to say back in the 90s. I was working at Red Robin, and at the time they made all their soups. I don't know what they do now, but at the time they made all their soups and everything in-house. Recharge dash upgrades. This is good because any recharge stuff is always nice. So we make the soups in-house every day, and most of the soups are fairly easy. And I'm in there one day, and I'm on the prep for making clam chowder. It was fall. I think it was our special at the time. And I'm making clam chowder. It's easy. It's just combine a couple ingredients and you get everything in a package. Even then, like the roux we would get would be prepackaged just so you couldn't mess it up. It's not hard to make in a restaurant, but it's easier for a place like that to just send you that. And they're not doing anything different, at least at the time, than you would be doing. So it's like it just saves you a step. So you'd get the roux out, you get everything in there, and you put it in there. And I'm making 40 gallons of clam chowder. All right, let's see. Bullet damage dash. Increase dash distance. Add 1 dash. Yeah, that'll work. Oh, slow MB projectiles. Let's do that. That might be good, especially if I get distracted. So, in this case, I'm having a great day. This day has started fantastic. I am ahead. I have everything done. Everything has cooperated with me in every step of the way. Like, I have just had an absolute fantastic start to my day. And one of my bosses comes out, and I'm just at the end of finishing the clam chowder. And one of my bosses comes out, and they want to start talking to me about something I was going to be training some people in a different state, if I remember correctly. Or no, yeah, in a different state. Because they were looking for volunteers to train people in a place where they were opening a new restaurant, and you would live there for just a shorter period of time. And the area manager had actually asked them if they knew anybody, and I had said I was possibly interested in it. So they came, they grabbed me in there, and like I said, my clam chowder's done. They grabbed me, we go start talking about it. Probably a good 20 minutes later, it's I don't have to worry about watching it because I've already turned it off. The clam chowder's finished. It just needs to be put into the tubs and ready to go so that they can bring it out when they're ready for it. And so I don't have to worry about it, any of that. I've made sure I don't have to mess up. I'm not going to mess up and burn it or anything like that. We talk, and it's probably a good 10, almost 50 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes, most likely. Yeah, let's go with that. Ooh, that guy. That guy can hurt. He goes a little farther than that cone shows. So I go out there, and my clam chowder's done. So I start clean up, and I pull the drain on the steam kettle where my 40 gallons of clam chowder are still in. And I literally drain 40 gallons of finished clam chowder straight into the drain. My day was completely 100% no longer going well. And I realized this like right after I pull the hose and I hear the air gurgle. So that it has emptied out the whole kettle, and I'm just like, oh my god. And I have to explain why today's special is maybe not gonna be happening because that was today's special for the soup. And it's a simple mistake, it's a dumb mistake, but at the end of the day, you're gonna get distracted. Things like that are gonna happen. It's not even always your fault. In this case, it's my fault because I didn't double check, but also I got distracted in between where I had finished the clam chowder and the clam chowder was finished. The clam chowder was finished cooking, but it had not been finished putting it into containers. So my brain said finished, not finished, and things go bad. Oh, rip me. I like this level. This level's cool. Not doing great because I'm talking. So let's go over here. Let's do the other gun because I can use those free rerolls to get us there. We'll still take that though. Back to the teppanyaki restaurant. Yeah, that was one of the most embarrassing ones for me. It'll be if you're in a bakery. When they were teaching us baking, it was almost an inevitable thing. Like if you're in non-baking, but you're doing baking, that's the place where I see people like occasionally put the wrong ingredient in. Home is especially, like I've done it at home, even after learning to cook. Like I've made a cake and forgot to put the sugar in once. It's not tasty. It's definitely not tasty. That was a birthday cake too. It was super embarrassing. I was like, oh, hey, yeah, no, man, I'll make your birthday cake. It'll go great. And then, I don't even remember who told me, but it was like one of my friends calls me, and from one of the restaurants I worked at, and I was living with him at the time in an apartment. We were sharing an apartment, and he calls me up, and he's like, hey, I'm on my way to my friend's birthday party, and he calls me up, and he's like, hey, why is there a cup of sugar on the counter? And I'm driving, and I mean, I just have this look on my face at this point of like, oh my god. So I knew one of two things had happened. Either the frosting had no sugar, this was my hope, or the cake had no sugar. Of course, it's always the one you don't want. The cake had no sugar at all. And it was one of those moments where it was just like, oh, it's so heartbreaking. Oh, it could have gone so well right up until it didn't. You'll encounter that kind of stuff a lot, especially if you want to do kitchen work, because it's just such a high-paced environment that as soon as something goes wrong, that's just a great all-arounder. I like that. it's such a high-paced environment where you can't really, you have to do everything fast. There's not a relaxed pace in a kitchen, unfortunately. I mean, and when you're at home, there is. And take all the time in the world when you're at home. Like, a lot of times you see people on cooking channels, including me. My cooking channel, occasionally I'll tell you how to do things, and we did things in a kitchen. But oftentimes you don't want to do things the way you do them in a kitchen. I'm paying so good of attention here, aren't I? 3 times already. So, at home, you don't necessarily want that, because at home, you have all the time in the world. There's no reason to cut in a way that every cut you make in a kitchen is a compromise between speed, safety, and accuracy. And that's every cut in a professional kitchen and every cut in a regular kitchen. And so if you're cutting like you would cut in a professional kitchen, yeah, it very well, we'll take that. Why not? We'll get a good crit chance eventually. But when you're at home, you don't really have those time constraints. You don't have to have, the thing out at a precise time. Like if you're in an industrial or a catering situation, you have precisely up until the place setting to get things done. But at home, you don't have those. You don't have those constraints. So at home, you can, just take your time, cut your onion. It may not be the fastest way, or it may not be the cleanest, but you don't tend to need things to be perfect. Like I can remember getting yelled at by an instructor when my onions were not the right size. Like I had probably, I would say there's about half of the onions were probably, I don't know, half. Probably, like, I was doing a dice that was about 5 millimeters, and there was probably about half of them were about 6. And, that was enough to set one of my instructors off. That's normal, though. That's that type of environment, especially when you're learning, like fancy restaurant French cuisine, which is what we were learning at the time that he did that. I should probably dash more in this game. I'm so used to not having dashes in these games that I forget that I have it in this one, and that is a bad habit, because it is a really good tool for keeping myself out of danger and maybe not dying so much as I have been. It ends up being a weird thing, though. Like I said, like you don't have those time constraints, and not having those time constraints means that sometimes the cutting styles that they use and they show you, they're like, oh yeah, this is just like a guy uses in a professional kitchen. It's not necessarily what you're looking for. Plus, you'll see a lot of people who talk about things like, oh, well, I just know how to cut everything by hand. I know how to cut everything by hand, and I could cut onions by hand all day long. But at the same time, in the restaurants, oftentimes, I'm using a mandolin or a slicer attachment to do that. Not because I can't do it by hand, but because it's more efficient. It's not really about, like, being able to do it by hand or not. That would be good. That's actually really fun. We're going to grab that, though. I'm already getting hit again. Ooh, no. Yeah, so, a lot of times, like I was at Gasparetti's up in Washington State. One of the things was we didn't slice the onions for any of this stuff by hand. It was just fed into a slicer that was attached to the big Hobart mixer in the back. Stuff like that happened all the time, because that's how you got to do things in there to get them done. And a lot of times when you see these precise cuts, a lot of times it's not worth taking one dude and grousing at him for ages about how he can't do it when you hit a restaurant. If they want perfectly equal slices, they're going to give you a machine that gives perfectly equal slices most of the time. That's not to say don't learn your cuts and everything, because you should. You should be able to cut them. You should be able to do any of the stuff that these machines are doing by hand, because that's something that you are being paid for as a chef. You're being paid for that knowledge to be able to do stuff. Damage relative to move speed? What's our move speed? 3.15? We could probably try that one. Or do we want the shield? Yeah, let's reroll. Knives. Bread knives. Ooh. Slow enemy movement. That'll help me out since I'm not dodging very well. Anyhow, the main thing to remember most of the time is that you just do the job that's in front of you. If you're the main guy, like sometimes you'll see people like they want to do things the same way they were taught in school, and sometimes that works. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes that's already the way you're doing them in a restaurant, but oftentimes it's not. Oftentimes they get in there and then they're being told to do things in a slightly different way, and some people don't always like get super okay with that, and some people get upset, and it's like, no, nobody's trying to upset you. It's just that the place that you're in wants it done this way because that's the way that they've done it and they've found that it works. If you have a better way, there's couple different ways you can address that with like a chef, and the most common and most frequently accepted one I've seen is you ask them to let you try it, and then you try it one day and everybody sees whether it works or not. If it works, cool. Oftentimes I found places have no problems making changes with that. Ooh, that'll be handy. Whereas, if you just try to jump in and change a process without like talking to someone first, that's a quick way to not be employed at that place, unfortunately. Because you may have a great idea, but they have to know that it's going to work today. So when you agree to test something out and you've talked to them about it, you get that, you have that benefit of the doubt that you don't have if you were to just try something in the middle of a shift. And it's not that any of your coworkers don't think you're a smart person, it's that they don't want to have to do the job that you didn't do right if it doesn't work. And oftentimes things don't work. Sometimes things will work the way you think they will. Sometimes an ingredient can act completely different than another ingredient when you do a substitution. There's a lot of complicated stuff. So when you go from school to a restaurant, sometimes there's a kind of a learning curve there for people where you've been taught a lot of stuff and a lot of techniques and a lot of recipes, and it feels like nobody really cares. And it's not that they don't care, it's that they need to get this particular thing on the table today, and you have cool, great ideas. We're happy for you. But right now we need to get this thing that we've been doing forever done that same way. And sometimes it just is like that, where it's like, okay, you're going to have to prove something if you want something. Or most of the time, you'll get most people will settle into the how do I do things? I do things however the place that I'm working for right now tells me to do them. And that's actually a lot of, regen. That'll help us stay alive longer. Unless I back myself into a table. You get interesting stuff in all of them. Front of the house is like baffling to me. Like I could never do front of the house very much. I'm not that guy. They tried me out a couple times because I was at one restaurant I was at in Arizona, and I apparently have like resting jerk face or something. I mean, we all know the actual term for that. But man, I would get people. I had like two types of customers only when they tried me out. Either they loved me or they despised me. And there didn't seem to be any two in between there. Let's see. Shields, critical hit, no. Yeah, slows enemies within range. Okay, so there's a cool thing on this one. And I think the range is tied to your pickup range. So if we increase our pickup range, which could help us out, then I believe we might be able to get a little bit more range on that too. So because it seems like last time I was playing this and I had I really like this level. The environmental level and the little sprites are great. Phew. That guy's tricky again, though. He goes just a little farther. Yeah, I think I was working a place and they tried to get me to help out on the front. And I had previously served, done actual service as a during catering. But catering service is different because I was never on the part where you talk to people. I was on the parts where you like go out and deliver these plates to people, and that's it. That's your whole thing. That's your interaction with them. It worked okay for that day. Unfortunately, an actual restaurant is not catering. And I was just like, I was me, and I don't. I think my problem is I don't smile much. I'm not a smiley person. I'm relatively happy, but it doesn't appear that I'm smiling, which is it's a me, yeah. And yeah, it didn't go over well. I had customers thinking I was angry at them for ordering, and they complained to my boss. And I'm like sitting over there trying to tell him, like, I'm not angry at these people for ordering food. And it's just, yeah. I'm okay at customer service at best. My problem is that I have a very, like, my brain does not filter me well. That's a good way to put it. So I'm always kind of like, I accidentally say things that people do not like. I've been trying to get better. I have not done a good job, but I have been trying to get better. That's another thing you'll encounter a lot in kitchens, is you'll encounter like people who just, you know, like there's a lot of people in the industry who don't feel like they fit in elsewhere, and so they kind of feel, oh, that could be handy if I start getting more life, so let's do that. You know, they just kind of, oh, ow, ow. Oh, we're getting hurt. We're gonna die. Hopefully we can get something here soon. Alright. Just lead them backwards. The backwards kiting. Did I get the thing that shoots between? Yeah, okay. We can shoot through furniture. That's a handy thing. Alright, yeah. It's interesting, though. You know, it's an industry where you're going to meet a lot of interesting people. Like my recipe for egg salad, my personal recipe, the one that I use, was given to me by a gentleman who basically came up with a recipe on a whim. Not on a whim, but in an emergency. He was literally serving time in a jail, and he was in their kitchen commissary, and that was his job, and he had a lot of hungry prisoners and not a lot of food. And he came up with an egg salad sandwich recipe on the spot, which, when he had a conversation, he actually was, he had been invited to our school to talk about industrial cooking. And after prison, he had actually gone on to work in industrial cooking, and he had found that that was something that he truly enjoyed. So when he was giving us a talk and explaining like other aspects than you would think of, other than, you know, the lunch lady at a school or a, you know, 5-star restaurant, it was an interesting thing to watch people kind of go, oh yeah, okay, so that's, so he, you know, he has this recipe, and I asked him if I could steal the recipe. He said, by all means. And so that is also my recipe now, and it is one of the best egg salads I've ever had in my entire life. You don't even know where a good recipe is going to come from. It's, you know, one of those things where everything works a little... Ooh, hello. I don't have enough dodges. Okay, there we go. Ah! Oh. I feel like at 50% he should start moving. Oop. If we stay on him, it seems okay. But yeah, sometimes you're gonna find a recipe. Oh, that was terrible. No, run! I forgot about the tables. Oh. Sometimes you're gonna get a recipe. Oh, man. Now I'm doing all kinds of bad. Once I get distracted, out of my zone. Hey, we might win this one. This is gonna be a long episode if we do. Apologize. Hey, there we go. Bouncing bullets. Yeah, we like bouncing bullets. So yeah, you never know where a good recipe is going to come from. You never know where a good chef's going to come from. This guy was great. He spent a ton of time after that, doing industrial kitchen work. And the place that he ended up at the end was a school. And he ended up being basically the head chef at a private school. And his food was fantastic. It was some of the best food I've ever had in my entire life. And the majority of the skill set that he had learned behind bars. And like I said, that's the, recipes, chefs, they come from everywhere. The recipes you eat come from everywhere. It's actually really interesting when you start looking at it and start finding out, like, hey, things that you didn't know about can sometimes be like I didn't even know about industrial cooking as anything other than going in and making microwave stuff, or just what you can get on a flat grill. But then this guy comes in and he's like, no, there's a whole huge difference. There's all this other stuff out there, and is all you need to do is just take a look around for it. And, as a chef, one of the main things you can do is try everything. Even if you just work in cooking at all, honestly, try everything. Like, if you get a chance to try new food, try it. You never know what you're going to like. There's foods that I would have never guessed I would love that are fantastic. I have some, I, like most chefs, have some weird food issues. Some of us, it's texture, some of it's different things. But, like, I can't have dairy and stuff, and there's a ton of foods out there that just, for a long time I couldn't have. Now I can start having some of them. But learning different recipes and how to do stuff, and learning about different cultures in their food, and the type of thing that if you really love cooking, it's the type of thing that you're going to really enjoy, because you get to try. I mean, like, even if you just said, okay, I'm going to try, like, curries. I'm going to spend 6 months. I'm going to try curries. Just every curry I can lay my hands on. There are... Oh, we might be going down this one. Yeah, let's... Oh, hey, there we go. Ow, ow, ow. And then if you do that, you'll find, you're going to end up with Japanese curry, Jamaican curry. You're going to end up with Indian curries. You're going to end up with Thai curries. You would end up, if you sat down and just tried different curries for 6 months, every time you wanted to either cook or, once a week, just a single time, you would end up trying probably the food from at least 6 different countries at a minimum. And you see that, and you start experiencing that, and you realize, oh, well, that's like, oh, okay, this is good, and this is good, and I like this, and oh, it turns out this is really good. And it's like, suddenly you're eating poi, and everybody's looking at you funny, because most people believe poi is it's an acquired taste. Taro root is good, but some people don't like it. It's kind of like sweet potatoes. That's one I can't do. I can't do sweet potatoes. I'm sure they're good, but for some reason my brain just nopes out as soon as I get to the sweet potato. It's like, I don't think so. Ooh. I got enough regen. I don't have enough dodges. All right, there we go. Let's see. Ooh, let's do that. The helper. Go forth, young Stagliere. Stagiaire? I can't remember how the pronunciation for that is. There's some interesting stuff in there, and I definitely encourage anybody who is in, if you do enjoy cooking and you do, is just, if you run in like, oh, I thought I enjoyed cooking, but I went and cooked at this restaurant and then it wasn't, there's a million different environments. Like, there's a good chance, even if you gave it a chance, that you can find the place for you, because, place for you could be making food in a hospital. That's a really neat job. I was just looking at it a couple months ago where I was talking to a friend of mine, and that was what he's doing now. He started off in school with me, and he has a blast. He goes and he makes interesting food. He has you know, you handle more than just the patients. You handle the doctors and stuff too, and they want something interesting to eat. Everybody wants something interesting to eat. There's some points where you're going to have to do menu items for patients that are specific, and sometimes you can't really vary too much on some things. And then there's other things where you can do all kinds of stuff. And it's another one of those places where suddenly you might have a little bit more creative freedom here and there for some of the food. Obviously, like, you know, the food for the residents and things like that, the stuff that they're paying for. Whereas sometimes you might have it might be the opposite way. There's going to be times where you just can't change it because this is the food that's going out to a patient who's, you know, had a heart attack. And sometimes that can actually be pretty rewarding in itself, because sometimes you're working with ingredient constraints but you're also working in, besides the ingredient constraints, you're working with people who, honestly, they want a good meal. Like, when you're in a hospital and the food tastes good, it makes it so much easier. It makes it so much nicer, because it makes you more relaxed. It brings happiness. It's one of those things that just works out really nice. So, you know, you could be there, you could be, enemy special attacks, less accurate. Probably good for me, because I'm getting hit a lot today. This video is going to be like an hour long, and it's just literally me, like, playing camp counselor about cooking. No, there are tons of jobs out there. There's way more jobs than you can if you could even imagine. I know people who work in the industries for Shamrock or Food Service of America, and they do the job of making sure that restaurants get the food that they want. And, you know, one of those guys used to play football, and the other one, he used to be a chef. And now he's in a position where he sells food to chefs. And he's happy. You know, it's something he found in the industry that he loves and he enjoys, and it just makes him nice and happy that he gets to do that. And oh my god, we're gonna go down here. Oh no! That's okay. This video's gonna be a little bit long. We don't die soon anyway. So yeah, like, if you are in the industry and my goose is cooked. All right, that'll work. 30 minutes. 30 minutes of me yapping. So as I was saying, if you're in the industry and you do have that sort of, like, what's going on here, like, can I do this? Yes. There's probably a part of that industry for you. You may not have found it yet, but don't get discouraged. Cooking is a fun way to earn your living. You just have to find the right place. I know people who are great under pressure. They could do service every day, 8 hours, no problem, back-to-back orders, absolutely love it. I know people who want that slower pace of a personal chef or industrial cooking, where they can bring a better flavor, they can take their skills and put it to work making these foods that people expect to be plain, not plain. And so you go through and you do all these things, and when people really love your cooking, they'll show it, and you'll love it, and you'll enjoy the job you do. And that's one of the best things about it. I don't do it now, but I also did, like, automotive and a bunch of other things, and I really loved all of the jobs I did. If I could change jobs once a year for my entire life, I probably would have done it. So, thank you all for watching. Now that I've talked for like 30 minutes straight, hope you have a great one. As to this game, I am very eager to see the next update. I enjoy playing this game, and will continue enjoying playing this game, and we will continue covering it. And I hope you all come back for the next one, and you have a great day.